All right, men, huddle up, huddle up. Big game on the line. And here's the play. We're going to build a wall 30 feet high around the entire state. Coach, around Alabama? We're in this country, Coach. I mean, that's Mississippi right over there. Mississippi's on our team. Nope. Wall. And that is, I guess, a real plan from the actual likely next governor of Alabama that also doesn't happen to live in Alabama. But before we get to the wall, I need to talk about Tommy Tuberville, his full resume, because it explains a lot. If you don't remember, Tommy Tuberville coached Auburn football for a decade, and he wasn't that great. Then he co-founded a hedge fund named TS Capital, which stood for Tuberville and Stroud, because it was him and a guy named Stroud. Super creative. But the guy named Stroud went to federal prison for 10 years for securities fraud. Tuberville, curiously, was never charged, and he settled his investor's civil suit and acknowledged in court filings that he never properly vetted his own business partner. His explanation for the whole venture on the record, quote, "I'm not smart enough to understand all the numbers," end quote. And I want to pause, and I want to say that one more time, but slowly, so that we can all commit this to memory. Tuberville said, "I'm not smart enough to understand all of the numbers." Tuberville also put money into a company that the SEC, and no, not that SEC, described as an $80 million Ponzi scheme. He started a foundation that spent tens of thousands of dollars staging golf tournaments and handed out only a small fraction of that money to charities. He once said that he hoped to serve on the Senate's Banking Finance Committee, which isn't even really a thing because those are two different committees. But remember, he's not smart enough. And a Republican primary opponent formally challenged whether he's even eligible to run, like I mentioned, arguing that he actually lives in his $5.5 million Florida beach house rather than the $290,000 postage stamp that he owns in Auburn that he lists as his residence. And I've got to ask you guys, at what point does a politician proposing a literal wall around his own state stop being a campaign trail nonsense and start being an actual problem for the people who have to take him seriously starting in January? Let me know in the comments. Which brings us back to the wall, right? He actually said on a conservative podcast, quote, "If we don't straighten out this country's voting and immigration system, we're not going to make it. It's going to be over. I'm going to go back to Alabama and hey, we might build a 30-foot wall around the state."
If we don't straighten out this country's voting, if we don't straighten out this country's immigration system, we're not going to make it. It's going to be over with. And as you said, I'm going to go back to Alabama and we might build a 30-foot wall around our state because I know what's coming.
And look, he talks about the wall, but the quote that really, really bothers me, "We're not going to make it. It's going to be over." Remember, his party runs Alabama, and on the federal side, the House, the Senate, the White House, and essentially the Supreme Court. This should be him being happy, the victory lap. God help us all the first time that this man actually faces opposition. And look, the idea is stupid, right? He probably didn't mean actually building a 30-foot wall around the entire state, but then again, he's not smart enough. But what he's floating, and I'm not talking about a wall to keep people from crossing into our country. He was thinking about walling off, maybe even figuratively, one state that is inside our country because he is apparently afraid of the rest of America. Need to remind you, Coach, buddy, you're not joining the union. That's not how this works. Right now, you are proposing to leave the union. And I think your state already tried that once and it didn't go so well. And look, if we're doing 30-foot walls now, do have some questions. I mean, would you need a passport to leave Alabama to go to a Falcons game? Does Georgia have to consent to this? Or are we just doing walls unilaterally now, state by state, whenever a guy who used to yell at 20-year-olds on a practice field gets nervous about an election. Although, one little logistical note here, Coach. Remember, a member of your own party filed paperwork arguing you don't actually live in Alabama, that you live at the beach house in Florida. So before you put concrete walls up, you might want to double check which side of the wall you're going to be standing on. That's why I'm going to ask that you guys hit that notification icon, because we are going to keep tracking every state that apparently wants to leave this country.